absolutely no way to predict growth, especially in the law of big numbers. Growth looked like this, but the retained earnings all stayed like that. It just made absolutely no sense.
People, one, they haven't figured out what the real purpose of the business is. They're thinking it's growth for growth's sake or just making money. And when that's the case, you can often just get completely lost.
How do you work with a customer to start at almost first principles, reverse engineering that exact motion down to an actionable plan that is digestible, whether it's quarterly or annually? Can you perhaps give them something tactical that says, I'm going to help you decide how you should grow, and then I'm going to chunk it into achievable milestones? Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest. Matt, do you mind explaining who you are, what you do, and how you serve the world?
Yeah, my name's Matt Hansen, and I'm what's called an EOS Implementer. And what I do is I work with business owners and their leadership teams to really run a better business, to take control of that chaos and get what they want from their business.
Fantastic. We're going to be talking about growth and scale. And growth and scale for the sake of just growing makes absolutely no sense because I've been in those shoes. I've owned 3 agencies. In my first agency, we grew, and I ran it for 10 years. And when you actually look at the growth pattern, there's almost no consistency to it. There were years we grew 75%. There were years we shrank by 10%. A lot of it came with the setting up of the initial business model, not thinking in first principles around our systems around go-to-market, such as we were episodic project-based revenue rather than recurring revenue. So we had absolutely no way to predict growth, especially in the law of big numbers. The bigger you get, the ability for a $20,000 deal to make any impact in your business when you're in the millions is none. So what do? You crank up prices, and we cranked up prices 4x to get our average price into the hundreds of thousands. But what did that do? Monopolized lead volume and velocity and probability or conversion of close. And so growth looked like this, but the retained earnings all stayed like that. It just made absolutely no sense. So Matt, you work with a customer. How do you spot right away that they have been caught up in the vanity metrics of, the founder or entrepreneur that they see online, where apparently you're not allowed to have a lifestyle business anymore? You're supposed to be growing at all costs. If you're not growing, you're dying, that shark analogy. But there doesn't seem to be a reason or reverse engineering from you're growing to fuel something that sustains around you and your lifestyle that you want, rather than you're growing because your friends are growing their business.
Yeah, well, it's great example. So what I find is it's usually people, one, they haven't figured out what the real purpose of the business is. They're thinking it's growth for growth's sake or just making money. And when that's the case, you can often just get completely lost. It's this idea of you've got a whole team of people and you start, you get together at the starting line of your race, somebody fires the gun, but everybody just shoots off in different directions. You're not actually going together. And that's often what you need to think about. Obviously, you have to have the right product. It's got to be in the right market, all those sorts of things. You got to figure that out. But after that, you got to make sure everybody's going in the same direction. Otherwise, it's just chaos.
Yeah. How do you work with a customer to start at almost first principles, reverse engineering that exact motion down to an actionable plan that is digestible, whether it's quarterly or annually? Listen, I'm a huge fan of EOS, so I live in my vision traction organizer and I have my L10 meetings, but can you, for the audience that maybe doesn't soak up EOS like I do, can you perhaps give them something tactical that says, I'm going to help you decide how you should grow, and then I'm going to chunk it into achievable milestones?
Yeah. So where we start with teams is always from the standpoint of how do you create discipline and accountability in the business? How do you get everybody aligned so there's clarity on what you're trying to do? Because everybody loves the idea of strategic planning and vision building and all those sorts of things because it's fun and it's creative. But if you don't have that basis of everybody actually being focused and accountable, working on that vision every day, then it doesn't matter what your vision is because you're only ever going to achieve it. So that's where we start.
Can you help walk the audience through? Maybe we'll always start with horror stories because I find that people learn through horror stories more than they learn through success stories. Can you give examples where a customer thought, I know what I want to grow. I want to grow 20% a year, 50% a year, but there wasn't a reason why, and how that metastasized into the business of malaise?
Yeah. Well, I'll take a personal example. So I was at a company, and we were building. It was an aerospace company, and so the company wanted to grow within this particular strategic client, big contract, and so there was a decision that they wanted the site I was at to actually be the lead because we were the biggest supplier within the corporation to that for that particular customer, but it wasn't what we did well. And so it's this mindset of we got to do it this way because it's going to win the contract and we're going to be ready to grow. But we weren't set up to actually be the most successful one to lead that program. And I remember as we were going through the process of trying to win it, I had a conversation with the president, my boss, and said, like, I don't think we should win this. This is not a good idea. It's like, nope, we got to win it, got to grow. And it ended up being a giant disaster. It did not turn out well, and a lot of pain and suffering and things to fix it and make everything okay. And we did that, but it was really a focus on growing and not really thinking through in terms of how the business actually works, whether or not that was the right growth to actually get.
Now let's do the inverse of it. Walk the audience through what does great look like? So how, if you were walking into, somebody's listening to this in their car, somebody's listening to this on their walk, and you'd say, these are the next 5 chess moves, 3 or 5 chess moves that I would do to be able to determine, so that you go into 2026 with a plan. You're going to grow, not just by how much, but why you're going to do it.
Mm. Yeah, for us in EOS, we use the term core focus. And so core focus, for those that aren't familiar, is really just simply what the business loves to do, what you love to do and you're really best at, right? It makes your customers happy enough or happiest. And so it kind of starts with there. That needs to be that like rough filter for the business as you look at everything. So if your core focus is, let's say, remediation, right? So for rain and everything sort of thing, if that's what you do best, well, then focus on that. Don't get distracted and say, oh, hey, you know what? But if we go into, let's say, housing, building an addition on a house, we could grow there too. Like it won't work out so well. So start with that initial filter and then start to build plans on that, within our target market. What's the right thing to do and build and figure that plan out. And as you figure that out, that ball can start to roll faster and faster and you can make more progress.
Any unique stories that you might have where you had a customer who wanted to grow, and maybe just telling a story from a customer story, don't have to use names, but when you double clicked in, their reason for growth or the path for growth was hyper personal. And a lot of times, us as founders, is we again are trapped in the cycle of seeing what our friends' businesses are doing or what our competitors are doing. And my competitors just raised capital, so that's I need to raise capital. Can you, and maybe this will help founder realize that all the outside things that are happening are actually just noise, and the signal is what you want to do with your business. Do you have any, like, something where a very unique story?
Mm. Well, there's a few. All founders have their unique story of where they get to where they get. But one particular client who is they've exploded, from the beginning. Really just took off
In a good way, explode,
in
yeah,
a good
like
way.
a
Yes,
rocket ship.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Explosive growth,
yeah.
in all the right ways. And it really came from that founder's personal story of actually he's a reconstruction business and of working in other businesses where it was really focused on the money. And from his perspective is he wants to give these people that have been through a really difficult situation, right? They've had flooding in their house or whatever it is, it's their home. And he wants to help give them that back, but also he wants to remake the industry because there's so many general contractors, right? There's a lot of bad GCs out there that don't do a great job, that don't necessarily, right, take their client's best interest. And he wants to remake that. And so everything he does, all the systems, the way they work, everything else is geared around that purpose of wanting to give these people their dignity, their home back, and really changing that experience they feel. And so everything is geared around that. And it's really working. He's exploded in growth, like I mentioned. And he's gathering other people, partners, whether it's other people in the remediation that would be sort of upstream from him, or suppliers that are coming to that ecosystem and wanting to work with him because they're like-minded. And it creates this great beneficial cycle of everybody helping everybody else.
This has been fantastic, Matt. How do people get a hold of you if they want to know more?
Best way to do it is you can email me at matt.hansen, that's matt.hansen at EOS Worldwide, or give me a call at 615-513-3892.
Thank you so much for being on Outsource to Profits.
Thank you.
You take care.